It's 1912. One of Britain's greatest sons has died. The funeral is one of the biggest and best attended the capital has ever seen. Letters of sympathy flood in from all over the world. Every newspaper prints a special tribute edition. But this is not the funeral of a king or a politician. This is the funeral of a man who began life as a poor boy in Sneinton, in Nottingham. The story of the Salvation Army begins with William Booth, a man from Sneinton in Nottingham. A man who created an empire of soldiers fighting for Christ. A man who lived only for helping the poor and homeless, the dysfunctional, the forgotten. And by doing so, he hoped they could be converted to follow the path of righteousness, to obey the word of the Lord. And in many ways his success far outstripped what could be reasonably expected at the time of a working-class lad from Nottingham. William Booth was born 1829. His early years were comfortable, but when he was 13 his father went into debt. William was taken away from a private school, Biddulph's Academy, and trained to be a pawnbroker. William wanted to be another John Wesley, the back-to-basics founder of Methodism. He quickly noticed that the poor were the least likely to be interested in his religious fervour. And one day he took a gang of rough local urchins into the chapel on Broad Street. They were quickly banned from the meeting. Even Methodism was turning its back on the needy of Nottingham. Already William Booth had found a big gap in the market. He was ready to fight for equality and salvation, but to succeed he needed to raise an army. Only then could the world be saved. Characteristically, Nottington Place is now part of a complex serving the people of Sneinton, some of whom are the descendants of the very people forced to hawk their wedding rings in William's old pawnshop back on Goosegate.
During the late 60s, the whole area was being demolished by the Nottingham City Council, and they realised the importance of the house here that William Booth was born in, and so offered it to the Salvation Army to purchase, to use the ground for whatever they felt was appropriate at that time. And so they built this complex of activities, which is elderly care, daycare, children's work, and originally for families as well. We have a luncheon club where people can walk in for lunch, so that the socialisation between daycare and luncheon club keeps people in contact with the community.
People still want to come to the Salvation Army. They are still very strong. Salvation Army, they know Salvation Army care, and that's what they want, care.
Are you going to make a snail?
I'm going to make a very long snail. Poverty is still around. It's very different from William Booth's day. There is still a great need in our area, as in many other places as well. But the poverty is a different picture, and the poverty is perhaps in the mind and in understanding as well. What can benefit them and help them to have a better quality of life for themselves.
At 19, William travelled to London. For a while he worked as a pawnbroker on weekdays and preached on Sundays, until he met a group called the Methodist Reformers. Impressed by Booth's style, they sent him to Spalding in Lincolnshire. At one of the meetings there, he met and fell in love with an exceptional woman.
This is a bust of Catherine Mumford, who was born here in Ashbourne in Derbyshire and later married William Booth. Together they founded the Salvation Army, and in those early days she was extremely influential in its work and in its principles. For example, she designed the first Salvation Army flag, and she persuaded William Booth to become a teetotaler.
I think Catherine is the most spectacularly significant, important woman in the 19th century. I think her importance, for instance, licks Florence Nightingale into a cocked hat. But this untutored girl becomes a great theologian. She was immensely influential in all sorts of social ways. I give just one example. She was one of the first people in the 19th century who, fighting against prostitution, began to say, well, the men are to blame as well as the women. The 19th century view of prostitution was that prostitutes were wicked, who inveigled innocent men into sin. And Catherine was saying, what about these rich men who exploit poor women? She was immensely progressive, she was immensely intelligent, she was immensely brave.
After 18 months, William and Catherine returned to London. Within 10 years of his first sermon at Mile End, William Booth had established 26 flourishing stations, and his followers had spread the word throughout the country. Known as the Christian Mission, Booth began to call it an army. And it really was an army, with uniforms, bands and a general, General William Booth. Then in 1878, the army got its name.
It wasn't his idea, originally. He was writing a communique with his son, Bramwell, and he wrote, "We are volunteers for Christ." And Bramwell, I suspect, really feeling rather stroppy about things. So I'm not a volunteer. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. That's not how you describe volunteers. I'm a soldier for Christ. And then they say, well, that's not a bad idea. The Christ army, the army of salvation, soldiers for salvation. And gradually it evolved into the Salvation Army, which is, of course, a wonderful title.
William knew that the hungry and homeless could not be easily converted to the cause, and so the army started to build places to provide food and shelter. And they still do. This one is in Sneinton, less than a stone's throw from Booth's birthplace. Sneinton House is a hostel for homeless men. They come here often off the street, often with drug and alcohol problems, and many of them find more than just shelter.
We shall rejoice and be glad in it.
It's taken me 31 years to get to where I am. For those who are maybe older or younger, their time for peace and spirit to come upon them will come if they want it. If they really, really want that, then it will happen. And then people like myself will be there and welcome you with open arms and say, "What took you so long?"
I was smoking cannabis heavily, and sort of the people I was associating with, and sort of hit rock bottom, and I wasn't really happy with the job I was doing, and I had to make the changes. And basically I've been to college and done 2 levels of youth work, and I've done a mentoring course, so I'm trying to take that on further now and take something from my own life.
Say, are you still with the Salvation Army? And I say yes, and they look at me and think, well, we'll grow out of it,
I came to live here because I was a street drunk. I applied for a job. It was arranged for me to be transferred here and, see if I fitted in on a trial basis. As a project worker, and I've been here for 2.5 years now. I'm grateful to them for what they did for me. It's like I'd not got the foggiest what they were all about when I first come here. As far as I was concerned, it was a load of Bible bashes, to be honest, and I was a bit nervous about that, but I didn't get the Bible rammed down my throat, right? And they just gave me a room and somewhere to start fixing myself.
Salvationism may be declining in the country of William Booth's birth, but there are places where it's still gaining ground. One of those places is Africa. The Salvation Army flag was raised in Uganda in 1931, here in Mbale. Then it was part of the East Africa Command. Recently it's grown and become an independent command a year ago. Now its headquarters are in the capital of Uganda, Kampala.
At the time I joined the army, Uganda Salvation Army was only one region, having one district and one section. But now it's quite big.
The problems here are very different to those in Nottingham. Civil war in the north and the deaths of parents caused by AIDS have forced many orphans into Kampala to find work and shelter. Here, the Salvation Army are teaching children basic carpentry skills. Many have younger dependents. Teaching them to help themselves is thought to be the right way forward. William Booth would have strongly approved. At the Salvation Army's Home of Joy orphanage in Kampala, children are fed and housed. We take the polio vaccine for granted. In Africa, it is simply unaffordable. This is what happens to children who get infected. The accommodation may look basic, but many of these children come from homes that see far worse conditions. They're helped later on to make a living too. Christopher Zalaba sells soda drinks from his adapted tricycle, but he has bigger plans. He's not going to let the ravages of polio stop him.
I want to expand it, that I make a shop here. But I have a small capital. It's small, but I think God will help me to expand. And I want to install power from that pole, from there, and then I put in it.
Salvationism is strong in eastern Uganda. In Tororo, they have a home for children too. Again, most of these children are orphans of AIDS. It may be hard for us to understand why Salvationism is so strong here. The couple who run the home told us why.
People are also knowing that the Salvation Army now is ours in Uganda.
My decision of coming in the Salvation Army because it was as I heard of this of salvation.
Some of the villages up on the mountains on the Kenyan border rarely see visitors. But the Salvation Army is here, trying to warn about the dangers of AIDS and tackle the problem at its root.
The song is all about AIDS. You know, they are just trying to, we are trying to educate them on what the death of their parents was, and to really understand that it was AIDS that killed their parents, so that they can learn, as young as they are, to understand that AIDS is a problem.
Even here, in the middle of nowhere, the man from Nottingham is remembered.
I've known him as my faith father in Salvation Army and as the founder and the first general, of course, from Nottingham, England.
The southwest of Uganda doesn't see much of the Salvation Army at the moment, but that's due to change. This orphanage wants help and has invited Major Gough Payne from Kampala and Tony Auld from London. The orphanage needs money, but the army has to promote caution and inspire a culture of self-help.
As Tony was explaining to some of our officers yesterday, many people in the UK, which is where he comes from, and he represents the Salvation Army in the UK, they give money. They give it not because they are wealthy, but because they feel that they should give. Right? So they are giving as a sacrifice. So that we also need to make sure that the money that they give is used in the best way.
Music is a big part of the Salvation Army's tradition. The brass bands we so associate with the Salvation Army were originally there for more than just music. And then there's the Hollywood side of the army. The Pasadena Tabernacle Choir from California, USA, are world-renowned.
We enjoyed having the mayor here too as well.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Why did they wear that? Sorry.
Why do you wear those uniforms?
Because it's a symbol, so everyone knows we're in the Salvation Army.
And then that's a way that we can talk to them about Jesus, because they come and ask us, "Are you a flight attendant?" Oh no,
we're in the Salvation
yeah,
Army.
we love Jesus. So then that's the way that we can talk to
And
them
it
about
also
it.
helps us not, like when we go to church, we don't have to worry about what we have to wear. We can just put this on, and no one has to judge us because they're wearing the same thing. Yep. So, yeah.
I want to say thank you, Father, that you care.
Not all branches of the army wear the uniform or conform to convention. This is an intimate prayer group in Arnold in Nottingham. Could this be the future of the Salvation Army?
Well, the future of the Salvation Army in this country and in Europe, and as I can see it throughout the continents, is to go back to a lot of the kind of beliefs that started the Salvation Army, from William Booth and his wife Catherine, to this idea that faith should be put into action. Now, how that's going to look now, I think, will be different than it was in 1970, and will probably be different in 2020. But how I see it is that we need to mobilise people back into the community. The thing that's really missing in the wider communities, I can see it, is people having that sense of belonging. So we feel that having small groups as we do is one way in which we can help people to feel, that there is community.
William Booth continued to spread the word until he was into his 80s, travelling around in the new motor cars. He never lost any enthusiasm for spreading the word, or for leadership.
I think General Booth in many ways was a terrible, unpleasant character. He was didactic, he was domineering. He had the great certainty that great men, and he was a great man, had become the leader of a worldwide movement. By the end of his life, he's going to America, he's having tea with the President of the United States, and he's saying prayers before the meeting of the Senate. By the end of his life, the Salvation Army in India, Japan, China, and he's created it as the leader. Now, to do that, I think you've got to be a pretty tough character.
I think William Booth would probably be concerned that we weren't doing enough to fulfil his vision, but I think he'd also be impressed by what is being done and the different avenues of service that are being offered in a different society from the one which he served in.
Whether or not you believe the underlying message, it's hard not to admire the legacy of William Booth. A man from Nottingham who was not afraid to practice what he preached, who founded an organisation that is working today in 110 countries all around the world.
When a disaster this massive strikes, I live just down over there in the Fairways Apartments, and if I'm just sitting at home not doing anything and everybody's coming out and doing their part, I mean, I just want to do as much as I can to help out these people that have lost completely everything. Well, the Salvation Army has always been one of the largest, if not the largest organization that I've heard of that has helped with any of the disasters that strike, and this one has proven to be no different. I've seen people come through here asking for any supplies, and we've given them everything they need.
Hello, I'm Major Steve Morris, Divisional Commander for Oklahoma-Arkansas Division, and we're coming to you live from Moore, Oklahoma. You know exactly what has happened here. This has turned out to be an EF5 tornado that has hit in this community, really for the second time in about 12 years. And the Salvation Army was on site, I'm proud to say, within 2 hours of the tornado passing over this area. We're serving as many people as we can, first responders at this location, and soon we'll be serving the victims in and around their homes as they gather those things. Prayer and spiritual counseling and emotional care is our big effort that we're doing here. These families are devastated, and the Salvation Army is proud to serve on behalf of the Lord and the Salvation Army. Thank you for your efforts. And if you'd like to help us financially, you can either go online or call the Salvation Army and help financially. God bless you.
Our God is so powerful, nothing's too hard for him, and our God is reliable, so good he never changes. God, he made me, he knows what I need better than anyone. God, he loves me, he only wants good things for me. So I'm gonna fully rely on God, I'm gonna trust him with all I've got. I know he will never let me down. Fully rely on God, I'm gonna trust him with all I've got. Fully rely on God, 'cause he can do anything. trust him with all I've got. Fully rely on God. 'Cause he can do anything, he can do anything, he can do anything. When the times are getting rough, gold and silver turn to dust. People build their barricades out of jealousy and hate. But there's one thing they could never, never, ever separate. Let it hear from near and far. This is how it's meant to be. We're together, you and me. Nothing can tear us apart. Sailing on a stormy sea. We're together, you and me. We build castles with our hands. On a solid ground they stand. They're our shelter from the storm. Keep us safe and keep us warm. No, there's nothing that can hurt us, whatever there may come. Let it hear from near and far. This is how it's meant to be. We're together, you and me. Nothing can tear us apart. Sailing on a stormy sea. We're together, you and me. Time is flowing to the sea, but it's still you and me. Nothing's like it used to be, but we're here, you and me. Let it hear from near and far. This is how it's meant to be. We're together, you and me. Nothing can tear us apart. Sailing on a stormy sea. We're together, you and me. Nothing can tear us apart. Sailing on a stormy sea. We're together, you and me.
In 1891, William Booth bought 900 acres of Essex farmland and set up his farm colony. Unemployed men from the East End of London came here to be trained in agricultural skills.
120 years later, we are here doing exactly the same thing, enabling people to better themselves. Of course, it's different vehicles to those that William Booth had, but the principle is exactly the same.
Those trainees here today are referred by social services. The majority of them have some sort of disability or are long-term unemployed.
Our aim is to get people into employment, but that's not just the aim. I mean, we like the idea of giving people quality of life as well. There are some that will not get into employment, but at least we can make their lives better.
The centre offers a wide range of training skills, from IT to horticulture.
Obviously, as they come in, they're not sure what they want to do, so they get kind of tasters in different departments. That way we can see, does it suit them or does it not? We want them to benefit 100%.
They're getting some fresh rotting manure, and then that'll go, then that'll settle down, then we'll put our compost on top, and then this will be an area that we grow beds into.
I've got steamy stuff here.
Oh yeah, that's what I want, the steamy stuff. Bit of a variety of things in there over the season, lettuces, cabbages, beans, peas.
Out of all the skills on offer, it's perhaps the horticulture workshop that reflects most closely the origins of Hadley.
They've sowed the lettuce seeds and they've got to the stage now where they need to be pricked out, and so they're putting them into trays here so we can grow them on in the new tunnel, and then we'll have lettuce plants to either plant out here or to sell.
The vegetables grown here are sold at Hadley's monthly farmers market or used in the tea room. The tea room is the main point of contact for the community with the Hadley Training Centre. Recently extended and refurbished, it overlooks the Thames estuary. Here trainees get the chance to learn skills like waiting tables and relating to the public.
Our tea rooms gives the general public a view of what our clients are able to achieve. We are out there as a shop window for people with disabilities, that they have as much to offer as you and I have.
Sonia arrived here in 2002 and now is a regular helper in the tea room.
I come in tea rooms Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. I do the trays, clean the tables and do chair legs.
With Sonia, she can remember and knows exactly where every table is. Now that you might think, oh, so, but again, for her that's fantastic, because I've got trainees here that, again, they've been working in here 4 or 5 years, and I have to direct them to the tables all the time where they are. With her, she very rarely gets it wrong. You say to her, table 4, table 5, she knows and will deliver the stuff straight away. And that is her favourite job, by the way, delivering food to customers. She loves doing that.
I like tea rooms best. Yeah, and then this afternoon we've got our tea. Yeah.
The trainees here work exceptionally hard. There is a real focus, a passion to get whatever is being completed done to the highest standard. We will take people who have no idea of how even to turn a computer on, through to those people who have advanced skills. So the diverse range of activities in that department is immense.
Meanwhile, at the carpentry workshop, the trainees receive one-to-one tuition on a range of woodworking techniques. The aim is to help them develop their manual dexterity and to boost their confidence.
Once they have gained confidence, they then will go on to assist the department in making items that we can sell through different outlets, the main one being our tea room, which in turn helps us raise revenue to help us continue doing the work that we do.
The high quality of the work at Hadley means that they're often hired to do jobs for outside clients.
All right, see you later, chaps. Where do you go?
This morning, a group of trainees and tutors is off to construct some decking.
The role of the trainees really is to learn as much as they possibly can and work in on what they can, and they've all got different strengths, you know, the same as all of us really. Yep, that's it, that's perfect there. Nothing, that wasn't too hard, was it? No, well done. Keep it, 'cause you can do a couple more while you're in the swing of it. Builds up their confidence. The difference in some of them from when they first came, they're sort of locked away within themselves, and within a few weeks they're sort of quite outward, and then they make friends with the other trainees, which is good for them, you know, and they thoroughly enjoy it most of the time. Yeah, they have a good time, but so do we, which is quite nice.
We started putting these in when we came. We did the foundation first before relaying the wood. We're screwing the screws in over there. Always working hard.
You can spend a lot of time with a trainee trying to teach them something, then one day they get it and they prove it and they show you, and that is the real buzz. Even right now, after 8 years.
John Swan arrived here as a trainee himself 8 years ago. After an industrial accident, he lost 50% of the use of his upper body. He also lost his business and sank into depression.
The staff here were absolutely fantastic. They helped me find the skills that were hidden beneath all that depression. And I've come from strength to strength. I'm now deputy manager of the centre. I would not have achieved what I am now without the help of the Salvation Army and the staff here at the centre. And it's an absolute privilege to now be on the other side of the fence where I've been helped, and now I'm helping other people in the very same way.
Every month Hadley runs a farmer's market, which attracts dozens of stallholders and a regular crowd. The horticulture department runs a stall selling produce grown on the farm by the trainees.
Cabbage, leeks, lettuce, all plants as well.
The Estates Management Department have the task of running the market, so that's setting up the barns, making sure car park is run smoothly, crowd control at times, making sure that the stallholders are happy.
Yeah, it's a nice friendly market and we've got lots of regulars now. Just for 2 hours, a short market, but it works very well. The attraction is the setting and also the animals that are in here for the children, so it's very good.
It's lovely today. Look at this. Look at the view. It's so beautiful up here.
It's lovely, and the people here are so helpful. You know, it's great to see it, especially when they do their own homegrown stuff and that.
And today, business is going very well.
Come and get your vegetables. We've got our own veg.
It's been a lovely morning. We've sold lots of stuff today, done really well. It's all grown by the trainees. Yes, most of it from seed or from the bulb, and they grow it all on and prick it out and do the whole lot.
They've been part of every process of growing the plant, and then selling it to the public is the final bit, isn't it? So they understand the whole process of what's going on. It's probably more than a lot of people do. Yeah.
The tea rooms become extremely busy on a farmer's market day, and it's lovely to see the clients and the general public mixing together, and it also opens up the farm to the local community.
Not taken, is it?
In the meantime, the busy kitchen prepares the food for the tea room and the staff and trainees' dining room. Before working in the main kitchen, the trainees have to learn basic skills in food preparation and health and safety.
They're given the real opportunity of working in a very, very busy kitchen. Last summer we served on average 55,000 people throughout the year, which is a lot of people.
Smell the garlic? Yeah.
We are also able to offer the basic food hygiene courses, so our clients will leave us with a certificate that will enable them to go into any catering establishment to work.
Nicola arrived here in 2002. She's always been very focused and hard-working.
Hold on a minute, not done yet.
I was a bit frightened at first. Now, it's alright. I've had a lot of help.
In 2004, Nicola was made a part-time employee.
4 days a week trainee, then 1 day staff. I have a lot to do every day. It's a fun place to be, you know.
It's nice and relaxed and lovely views.
and just like to support the Sally Army, I suppose.
Yeah, it was packed too. There's a lot of people in here, so it says it all really, doesn't it?
No, it's very good, yeah. They seem to cater for everybody, don't they? Children in particular. And I know the grandchildren love it. Prices are right, even the little things that they make for the birds in the trees, excellent value for money.
I like what they're doing with the youngsters. I just think it's a really good idea to get kids working who've got difficulties and to get them working and feeling that they've got value. So I just think it's a brilliant idea.
Success can be measured in many different ways. I mean, some of our trainees go right the way through and end up getting paid employment. Some will get voluntary work, and some will get placements in work. But many of the successes are really how they grow and develop at the time they're here. Week after week, month after month, I see changes in people, and you wouldn't recognise them. You absolutely wouldn't recognise them the way they develop.
I feel very privileged to be here. It's more than a job. To see the change in people's lives and to know that we are instrumental in that change is quite touching. And just like to invite anybody to come and see us and see the work that is still continuing here. It's a wonderful place to be.
Her mother, Melina, is HIV positive, and the doctors think that Mavulik may be positive too. The results will be back in a few hours. Mavulik is being treated here at Chicken-Carter Hospital in southern Zambia. The Salvation Army opened the hospital here in 1945. The lab is about to complete the HIV test on Mavulik's blood. Mavulik is HIV positive, one of the 6,000 people around the world who's infected every day. Chicken-Carter has a long history of treating people with the disease. By the mid-1990s, the numbers of people who were dying from AIDS reached epidemic proportions. Salvation Army officers Dean and Iowyn Pallant were based here at that time. Iowyn worked as a doctor.
People were dying all the time. I was devastated. It affected everyone. There was nobody who was immune.
A mother who is HIV positive can pass the disease on to her child during pregnancy, in childbirth, or through breastfeeding.
The children are perhaps some of the most tragic victims of HIV.
In 1996, new drugs called antiretrovirals, or ARVs, became available, but they were too expensive for developing countries. Only a third of the 6 million people in developing countries who need ARVs get access to them. Patients at Chicken-Carter are some of the lucky ones. The hospital now distributes ARVs to a growing number of patients.
The provision of antiretrovirals has made a massive difference. It stops the virus multiplying, and therefore it slows the progression of the disease down, and people are now living 20, 30 years with the disease. So there is still need for care teams for those who are sick.
Alongside the role of treating those who already have the disease, the Salvation Army has put a lot of effort into prevention work, both in places where it's really taken hold and in parts of the world where HIV has yet to make an impact. More people than ever are on the move, and some of them are carrying the HIV virus as they travel between cities, over borders and across continents. This is the Mombasa Road in Kenya, the main transit route for a good part of East Africa's imports and exports, connecting the region's landlocked countries to the Indian Ocean. Truck drivers have been identified as key players in the spread of HIV, as the infection is carried along the main transport routes.
We are on our way to Uganda. And when you're away from home, if you meet a beautiful girl, you might risk getting the virus.
The fear of HIV and AIDS means people keep it hidden from each other, and communities remain silent.
The
people through the music, through our songs, through our sharing of what Christmas is all about, with all the busyness of Christmas, travelling, just to remind them of the Christ who was born in Bethlehem and what he can mean to them. Hopefully they capture that through our singing.
It's not Christmas until you've heard the Salvation Army. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to see so many people here enjoying it and lots of little kids enjoying it as well and getting in the Christmas mood.
I love it. It's great. Beautiful. You don't see this very often, especially where I'm from,